Hello, my name is Tony, and today we're going to look at another horrible case with you. Ashley Ann Harris was born in 1983 and grew up in the awesome Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. When she was in her 20s, she scored a job as an assistant manager at American Eagle in Hulen Mall. She totally loved working there because she got to meet lots of new people and be all fancy in the retail world. People said she was super lively and had a big gang of friends. Ashley's best friend Stephanie Naylor told Snapped. She was the really cute, fun, outgoing person, and so a lot of people were attracted to her, regardless of whether they were a boy or a girl. Something terrible happened on November 28, 2014, at the River Ranch Apartments in Fort Worth. The fire department received a call about a fire in one of the apartments.
Fire department, what's the address of your emergency?
Yeah, hi, I'm gonna live over at River Ranch Apartments, and I think there's a fire upstairs in the apartment above me. Stay with me, I'll get someone in around.
When Ashley's friend, Jeff, went to check on her, he found a horrifying scene. Ashley was bound and had suffered severe injuries to her head and neck. The fire hadn't killed her, but it was clear that someone had done something terrible to her. Ashley was positively identified after her driver's license was found nearby. The fire department called in the Fort Worth police. There were no signs of a struggle or forced entry in Ashley's apartment. Her friend, Alexis, told the police that she had been with Ashley earlier that night. Ashley had been working hard to prepare for Black Friday, and Alexis had been watching her dog. Alexis left around 4:45 a.m. and heard Ashley lock the door behind her. They also found no evidence of any recent activity on her social media accounts or any outgoing calls or messages. The arson experts had determined that the accelerant that had been used was rubbing alcohol, which isn't very flammable. The police decided to question Alexis further, hoping she might have more information that could help them unravel the puzzle. A neighbor saw a suspicious black Infiniti G35 parked next to Ashley's truck in the morning. Ashley's manager, Chris, had overheard the conversation and said he knew who drove that car. Chris said that the black Infiniti belonged to Carter Cervantes, age 25. Carter worked as a manager at an American Eagle in Amarillo before moving to the Fort Worth location. Carter had begun a relationship with a 19-year-old named David Mallory. Carter's relationship with David was frowned upon, so Carter was given the option to transfer. David never showed up for work in Amarillo again and was placed on a no-hire list. David eventually relocated to Fort Worth and began living with Carter. Carter was able to get David a job at the Fort Worth store by changing David's social security number. Additionally, witnesses reported seeing Mallory lurking around Ashley's house in the days leading up to the incident. This evidence strongly suggested that Mallory was the prime suspect in the case. And his relationship with Carter Cervantes only added fuel to the fire of suspicion. In August 2014, someone had broken into the American Eagle and stole about $18,000 from the safe. Ashley had accused David of stealing money from their workplace, and Carter had been involved in the theft as well. Ashley's managers fired Carter, and David stopped showing up for work. It seemed like they wanted Ashley dead because she knew about their crime. After the incident, Ashley couldn't shake off the feeling of being constantly watched. Every time she walked down the street, she would catch glimpses of familiar faces lurking in the shadows. The paranoia grew stronger with each passing day, as if someone was meticulously tracking her every move. Ashley's heart raced with fear, wondering if her accusations had unleashed a dangerous force that was now hell-bent on silencing her forever. Ashley's cause of death was asphyxia and blunt force trauma to the head and neck. Ashley had been cut in the head, stomped, and had ligature marks on her neck. Ashley had died shortly before the murder was set. On Saturday, November 29th, the police followed Carter and David to the Hulen Mall around 7:45 a.m. They had been surveilling their apartment since the night before. Carter exited the car wearing dark clothing, but David remained inside. The cops pursued Carter into the mall, where they met Chris, Ashley's manager. Chris had been waiting for his store managers to let him in. The store's locks had been changed after Ashley's death. David claimed they were at the mall because Carter was filling out new employee paperwork. David was arrested for not having his driver's license. The cops returned to Carter in David's apartment and noticed Carter was now dressed in pink scrubs. Carter agreed to respond to questions at the police station. Carter was asked where she had been the previous day. She claimed she and David had Thanksgiving dinner and watched movies together. The police didn't believe her and left her alone in the interrogation room. They noticed something strange when they handed Carter a water bottle. She wiped it down with a tissue and didn't touch it again. Later, they discovered surveillance footage of Carter trying to unlock the gate at the store where Ashley worked. The evidence was piling up against Carter and David. It seemed like they were the ones responsible for Ashley's tragic death. The police were determined to bring them to justice and unravel the truth behind this horrifying crime. The police obtained a search warrant for David and Carter's apartment. And guess what? They found some receipts inside. One of the receipts was from Carter, and it said she bought a murder kit on November 21st. That kit had 2 shovels, rope, gloves, a tarp, and duct tape. Super creepy, right? And there's more. When the police checked Carter's car, they found a loaded Glock, a bunch of knives, and the cell phones of both David and Carter. And get this, in David's car, they found the shovels, bungee cords, and another tarp. And here's where it gets even scarier. Ashley's blood was found on the floor mat of Carter's car. It got there from David's boot. The police noticed that Ashley had these star-shaped injuries behind her ear and on her nose. And guess what? Those injuries matched the shape of the Glock. It's like she has been pistol whipped. And get this, David and Carter were texting each other about planning the murder. David even sent Carter some coordinates, and when the police went there, they found a grave that had been dug. It was in the middle of nowhere. But, the police figured out that David and Carter changed their minds and didn't bury Ashley there. Instead, they set her apartment on fire to try and hide the evidence. In the trial, the police said that Carter and Clarence had a plan to take Ashley and steal her keys. They had pictures of her apartment, the door, and her car on their phones. The police also found some special numbers on their phones. Detective Cedillo testified one of the messages on Clarence's phone had special numbers. When he put them into Google Earth, it showed a place near Luters, Texas. Detective Cedillo went there and found a hole that looked like a grave. It was 6 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, and 3 feet deep. The people who were accusing Carter and Clarence thought that their original plan was to take Ashley and use a gun to scare her. They wanted to kill her somewhere else. But when they went into her apartment, she fought back and they ended up killing her there. Mark Sedgwick, an FBI special agent and member of the Cellular Analysis Survey team, testified about the content of texts sent between Clarence's phone and Carter's phone at 11:52 a.m. on November 28. The court also heard that when the police searched Clarence's car, which was a Cadillac, they found 2 shovels, a box of plastic sheets, and a box of Craftsman sockets. The prosecution asked Jeff Kaiser to come and share what he knew. Jeff was a neighbor and a friend of Ashley's. He told everyone that he woke up that morning because he heard the fire alarms going off. When he realized it was Ashley's apartment and saw her car still outside, he rushed upstairs and kicked her door open. When he went inside, he saw that the apartment was filled with smoke and water was spraying from the sprinklers. Jeff crawled halfway to the kitchen, but then he had to leave because he needed fresh air. He tried 2 more times, but the smoke was too thick. Luckily, the firefighters arrived at that moment. Patrick Sweet, another neighbor, also testified. He told the court that he lived in the apartment directly below Ashley's. He testified that he awoke around 7:30 a.m. on November 28 after hearing a loud scream. He could hear labored breathing and a loud thud after the scream. Patrick testified that he deliberated on what he should do. He heard Ashley's apartment door close and looked out his window to see a black Infiniti G35 driving away. He assumed Ashley had been picked up for work. Patrick's carbon monoxide detector went off a few minutes later, and he noticed water dripping from the ceiling in his bathroom. As soon as he realized there was a fire, he dialed 911. Alexis Torres Bunch testified before the court. She told the court that she left Ashley's apartment after 4 a.m. on November 28, and that Ashley had locked the door behind her. The jury was told that at 6:56 a.m., Alexis received a missed call from Ashley, and that when she saw it a few minutes later, she called her back but got no answer. David and Carter were both charged with capital murder on December 4th. The state waived their right to seek the death penalty and instead life in prison without the possibility of parole. They both entered not guilty pleas. Their cases were heard separately, but the prosecution case was nearly identical for both, with the exception that the prosecution believed Carter was the mastermind behind the crime. Carter's case was the first to be heard. During Carter's trial, her defense attempted to argue that David had complete control over her and was the true mastermind behind the robbery and murder. She testified at her own trial, telling the court she was terrified of Clarence. She testified before the jury that he had complete control over her and even told her when she could eat or drink. She admitted to trying to enter the American Eagle store, but she claimed she did so only because Clarence threatened to kill her if she didn't. She claimed that he held the gun up to her and told her to do it, and that she also claimed that someone was waiting outside her parents' house and that they would be killed if she didn't steal the money.
Very afraid of David. I thought he was going to kill me, telling me what to drink, what to eat, and he made me have sex with him in the movie theater.
Carter also testified about a time when she claimed she was raped by two men. Clarence invited the two men, who were strangers to her, into the apartment, and both of them raped her. She claimed that when Ashley was murdered, she was sleeping in bed and had no idea where Clarence was. She told the court that she did not murder Ashley and had nothing to do with her death. The jury was not convinced. It only took them 2 hours to convict her and sentence her to life in prison without the possibility of parole on May 26, 2016. The cops believe she was the mastermind. David Mallory was also convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in 2017. David is currently incarcerated at the Ferguson unit in Midway, while Carter is incarcerated at the Dr. Lane Murray unit in Gatesville. Carter and David, in my opinion, are both equally responsible. Carter was probably more irritated that they were fired after being caught. Ashley was simply doing her job when she reported the robbery, as any good manager would. They probably had no idea they were going to hurt Ashley in such a brutal way. At the very least, justice has been served, and they will spend the rest of their lives in prison. What's your take on this case? Do you reckon the punishments they got are fair? Or should they be punished more? Let me know what you think in the comments. Tony was with you, and thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click the bell to stay up to date on the biggest stories from around the world. I'll see you soon. Take care.